are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining today. We're happy to have you here for our latest Build Your AutoCAD IQ session. Today we will be discussing duplicating objects, and in particular things like copying, arraying, good ways to duplicate objects, copy objects, and make things a bit easier for you in your sessions. So today we have myself, I'm Sean, be helping with the moderating and answering questions. We have Dave with us today. He was also here last week. And we also have, although she's not listed, Victoria Studley, who some of you may have met if you were at AU. She helped present with a class at AU. So Victoria is also here today to help with questions and that sort of thing. So we are going to start with a couple polls, as those of you who have been here before are probably familiar with now. We know it's a bit repetitive, but it does really help us going forward, so we appreciate your time to answer these questions. So looks again like most of you have been here before, so we welcome you back. Happy to have you here. And you newcomers as well, we hope that you enjoy the next hour or so and learn some new things for AutoCAD. So I will also do the second poll right now, which is just an idea of what software you're using. Anybody who's attended before, we do focus on AutoCAD LT, but the majority of what we cover also applies to the other programs. And as Volker, I think, is going to mention today, we may have some upcoming sessions specific to some of the verticals as well. So if you use the verticals most often, we may have some sessions coming up more geared towards you. So that's exciting as well coming down the pike. And so that's great. Most have voted, so I'll close that. It looks like as per normal, most folks are on AutoCAD LT and Core AutoCAD, and about 15% on the verticals. So thank you for giving us that information. It does help us. And so with that said, I will go over to Volker, and we will start today's session. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Sean. Everybody, welcome. And Victoria, my humblest apologies for not listing you. We are gathering quite a few personnel from the product support team to join us nowadays, and trying to keep a mix going so we can answer your questions as we do the webinar. That being said, I am so happy to have you all here, newcomers and those who are returning to our Build Your AutoCAD IQ session. This one, back to basics, duplicating objects. So for those who have been here, we do need to do a little housekeeping. Apologies, we'll make it quick. First of all, feel free to leave the questions in the chat window. One of us will answer those. Some of those may be directed to me, and I'll answer them verbally. This session will be recorded and will be available on the YouTube channel. The slide deck that I'm using will also be available at this address here, and that link will also be made available in a post-webinar email, as well as a link to the recorded sessions. So we do have a landing page, which many of you have been to, and currently we have 4 of the next 5 webinars listed, and we will continue to keep this updated. There is a playlist button on this web page right below the feedback area. If you select on that playlist, all our previous recordings are there. I will mention someone had pointed out to me that one of the recordings was not available right now. Offhand, it's escaping me the title of that, but I'll get that one uploaded shortly. We will do some Q&A after the presentation as time allows. You can also leave feedback on our feedback page or send an email to the autodesk.help.webinars@autodesk.com. Previous webinars, for those who are new, these are just 12 through 24. We have 11 additional ones on the YouTube channel. those are available for you to check out, and oftentimes I'll refer to those as well. So be sure to check those out on our Build Your AutoCAD IQ playlist. Our Autodesk Knowledge Network is one place to that we like to point out because there's a lot of good information there. Right now I have the top 5 most viewed articles that are shown on that page. It's also a great place to get any of the service packs or hot fixes. There's good information for troubleshooting or just to learn about your application. I encourage you to check this out. It is full of great information. So we do have one new slide. So for those who have been here before, if you haven't fallen asleep, now it's time to wake up, okay, if you have. The Autodesk Subscription Center itself is being retired. The only way this is really going to affect you is that there is a new URL that you need to use to access all your subscription benefits. Again, this link will be in the slide deck that you can download, or you can just write it down right now. But other than that, it really isn't going to affect you other than allow for a smoother interface, and it is set up to give you access permissions as your account manager has set those up. So just be aware that March 13th, the new Autodesk.com account will be available.
Yeah, Volker, just want to point out that if you don't go to this URL, you will be redirected automatically, but you should just fix your link for the future access.
That's great, Dave. Yeah, I appreciate that. Good point to make. So you don't have to be worried or anything. Just don't, freak out when all of a sudden you're being pushed somewhere else and things look different. Now you're aware of it.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, Volker, if I can jump in, anybody who's been around for a while, Subscription Center, I don't remember it being updated for several years, maybe somewhere more than 5 years ago before there was really any major updates. So we understood it was probably time to give something a little easier for customers. So everything that you need will still be there. We're just hopefully making it a bit easier for you to access all of it and activate your products and that sort of thing.
And I guess, thanks, Sean. I guess I'll point out, if you haven't checked out the Subscription Center, do so. We get a lot of calls from people who aren't even aware that they're on subscription because somebody else has purchased the software as well as the subscription, and they aren't aware of the benefits available to them. You can access your downloads there, post support requests, among other information and benefits. All right. Thanks for that input, guys. All right, so today's agenda. This is going to be the rest of the slide deck, really, aside from the resources at the end that I'll point out. We are going to get straight to these commands that we'll be talking about, copy commands, okay? And it's not just copy that is a copy command. We have the array command that allows us to copy objects. Copy, of course, offset, mirror, and there's a whole bunch of other copy functionality in AutoCAD. We obviously don't have enough time to show all of it, so we're going to focus on the 4 copy commands that I've shown there, and I'll show a little drag and drop copy trick as well, and if we have time, I'll point out a couple of other copy commands. But that being said, let's see how they work. Let me go ahead and end my little show for right now and go into AutoCAD. And I'm hoping everybody can see that. So, getting started with this, you're probably all familiar with this file, this little data set I have here. There are often different types of needs, different needs. You may have a different need for a different way to copy something. Pretty much any copy command will allow you to get the job done. You're just making duplicate objects. But depending on what you need to copy, there are tools that make things a little easier for you. So the first one I'm going to take a look at is actually the copy command itself. Okay, so here we have some electronics. We have a CPU, we have a telephone, and we have this chair, which isn't electronic. But we want to go ahead and copy that into these cubicles so we don't have to redraw it or place everything. I use the copy command from the ribbon. We could type CO at the command prompt or copy. Probably all pretty much aware of how to get to that command. But there are some functions within the command that maybe you just haven't looked at because well, hasn't stood out that much. You just wanted to copy something, right? Anyway, I tend to look at my command line a lot. I don't use dynamic input that often. I've kept it on in this case. But it tells me here, copy selected and select objects. Well, I've selected the objects I want to copy. Now, it says specify the base point, displacement, or mode. Displacement works with coordinates. What I want to focus on right now is I'll be using a base point, but I want to focus on this mode right here. Note how I can just click on this. Now, this click functionality has only been available for 2 or 3 releases now, so it's not going to be available everywhere. You may have to right mouse click or type in the capitalized letter to get the option here. But note how we have a single and a multiple. Single copy is actually the default. And so once I copy that, I'm out of the copy command. Now, I have more than one item to copy, so I actually want to use a multiple mode. So I'm going to go ahead and select these objects. And now I'll go ahead and select multiple. Again, I could type that in, but I'll select multiple. And I'll pick my base point and my destination point. And so it allows me to obviously copy and place those as I need to. Now I'm still in the copy command, and that worked well, but what if I screwed up? I really didn't want to copy all 4 of those. I just wanted to copy 2 of them. There's actually the undo option here as well. So you don't have to cancel out and erase, just undo the steps. So I've undone. I've backstepped through all of those copies. And the reason I did that was one to show you that we had that undo option. But built in to the copy command, and this has only been around for a couple of releases as well, it's an option to array. And basically create a rectangular array. So similar to what you'll be seeing in a few moments with the array command. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And it says number of items to array. So I'm going to say, well, I need 4. You have to include the objects in the original selection set. So I'm going to type 4. And then it says specify a second point or fit. So the second point is how far, basically you're telling it how far apart you want it to copy. Or you could say, look, I just need it to fit between this point and this point, and it'll place it as best as it can. I'm going to go ahead and pick a second point, and I'll just do that right here. And it gives you that little bit of a preview there, okay? And I need to keep my hand steady, okay? And so I have made an array copy of that. Now, my hand moved a little bit, so it's off-center a little bit. But again, I could undo that or in this case, I'm just going to leave it as it is. My boss isn't going to see this drawing. Only X amount of people in the world will. And that would be you. All right, so use your O snaps. This drawing is kind of harsh there, so it wasn't very good for the O snaps, but that was the copy command. I'm not sure if we have any questions on that one, Sean or Dave.
Nothing currently, Volker. I think
Okay.
everybody's staying up to date.
Good. Yeah, just going to pause between commands. How's that? All right, so for this next one, we're going to use the array command. Prior to doing that, though, there's a lot of stuff here, and the array command actually creates a couple of rows as a default if I use the rectangular array. So what I'm going to do is isolate the objects that I want to work with. And I'm just going to go ahead and put a closed window around this here, and right mouse click and select isolate objects. All right, so that gives me a little more visibility, area to work with, see what's going on, so that you can see what's going on. The array command, I can type AR at the command line, I can type array, or I can go up here on the modify panel of the home tab, and the array command actually gives us the ability to create a polar array, as you're seeing in our little graphic there, a rectangular array, or a path array. Rectangular is actually the default. I had used polar last, so that is what the current default is. But this is the rectangular array. Now, previous versions of AutoCAD had an array command, very different from what we now have. You can actually access that command, and I'll just type it in here. Oops, let me do that backwards. Array classic. There it is. And so you also have that option available to you. I'm not going to focus on this one, but be aware it's there. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and use the array command, rectangular. And the difference being is that this is called an associative array. And I'll explain that as we move along. First thing I want to do is I want to copy all this stuff to these 3 cubicles. So I'll just go ahead and put a crossing window around my stuff. And at the select objects prompt, I'm just going to hit enter, and it automatically creates an array, and this is why I isolated the objects so you can see this. It automatically defaults to 4 columns and 3 rows. Now we can easily change how many columns and rows and the distance in between up here on the contextual ribbon is what this is called, which is going to be available once you're in the array command. We also have, so here we have columns, here we have rows, and then we have levels. And even AutoCAD LT has the ability to create basic 3D. So we can actually create levels in a 3D, for a 3D drawing using this array command. We have an option here to make the array associative, which is the default. I'll get into that in a moment. We also can choose a different base point for our array. Only time I've really used this is in a polar array, but it can be useful, so be aware that it's there. Right now, let's take a look at this. Kind of hard to see, but there's a grip here. And this grip actually allows me to change the amount of the distance between the rows, or the number of rows. So at this very default here, at the very beginning after getting into the array, see how I can dynamically change the rows. Or I could just go up here and type in how many rows I want, which in this case would be 1. And there we go. There is another grip over here that allows me to change the columns, how many columns I would like to see in this array. So need to press down on it, and I can go forever and a day and create this array. And there is another grip here in the center that allows me to specify the distance. Let's see if we can actually make that appear a little better. So I don't know if you can see that 12 foot 0 inches in there. It's showing me the distance right now, but I could certainly change that dynamically. I just hit escape to get out of that. So what I want in this case is I want 4 columns, 1 row. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell, look, I want to change the spacing using 2 pick points. All right, so in this case, zooming in here, I'm going to make sure to grab the endpoint here and the endpoint here, and that has plopped the units into place. Now, the associative, right now, the associativity of this array allows me to dynamically add or remove columns or change the spacing. If I click on this and make it not associative, once I close the array, the associativity will be gone. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to use that anymore. And what it's going to do is treat the items as a single object, whereas having that as associative and closing the array, note how this is still treated as one object, and what that allows me to do is change how many columns we have, so I can add or remove columns to this, resize the distance, as well as change the rows on it. Also note that once I selected this, the Contextual Ribbon tab is again available. However, this time it has a couple of different options. We have Edit Source, Replace Item, and Reset Array. So the thing here is that, and this is actually kind of a drawback with the associative array command. So I do want to point it out because we do get support requests about this issue here. I have some text, okay, right here. Since this is all part of the array, there's no way for me to change this from Charlie Brown to Lucy to Linus to Victoria. Okay, just it's not going to happen because these are treated as one item. The only thing I can really do here is I can edit the source item, okay, and in this case I'll just select that. It prompts me here to edit source objects of associative array. You could easily dismiss this dialog and not see it again in the future. I'm going to encourage you to leave it to not dismiss it. The reason being is because of this command right here, array close. Once I edit the array, if I need to type in at the command prompt array close to get out of the edit mode, there's no button that does this, okay, on the ribbon. You have to remember this command is here. If you dismiss this, you may forget. And no, I don't know why it's that way. I'm just showing you how it works, okay? So I'm just going to click OK, and I'm going to go ahead and select the text here and use the erase command to get rid of that. Go ahead and type array close. All right, and I keep forgetting about this too. I encourage you not to do that. There is a button for this. Okay, I'm not sure why I even said that. I lied to you, I guess, because it's how I do things. Let's go back in here to, whoops, this, and edit source. Once I select this and make changes, always keep my eye on up here. Save changes, discard changes, or use array close. It's up to you how you want to do it. So anyway, I don't want to make any changes here. I'm going to discard it because I already made the changes I wanted, but I had to get rid of that text. Now I'll have to type in a new text header for the name of the employee who is occupying that cubicle. That is a rectangular array. There's more to the array command. We'll go ahead and take a look at that here in the next example, but first I'm going to go ahead and end my object isolation so that we can see my cubicle.
Hey Volker, just while you're on that, before we move on to the next thing, there was a question if you could just show again how the room numbers changed, just from a few minutes ago.
Oh, actually those are still the same. I didn't select that.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't select those. It was probably an optical illusion.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, good question. Wouldn't that be nice, huh? That's actually where I'd probably create a dynamic block, okay, for something like that.
I didn't think they changed, but I saw the question. I just assumed that I missed something. So
yeah,
very
it's
good.
like,
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, how did it do that? I don't. I didn't select those, so they were still there.
That's okay. Do you want a few other questions before you move on to the next thing, or for time-wise, do you want to move on and take them at the end?
Let me take care of the array command real quick.
Okay.
I've got two more examples to show, and they'll be real quick, and then I'll take some more. All right, so we'll pretend this circle is a table, conference table maybe. I want to array this chair around that table. So a polar array is what I would probably want to use there. Polar array, it prompts me to pick the base point. What is this object going to rotate around? So the center of the table makes perfect sense. It automatically goes into a dynamic display here, showing you the objects. This here, grip, allows me to expand the radius of the array. So basically, resize those. We'll have a group hug, or gee, I don't care for you. This here allows me to change the angle between the objects. So because I have 6 objects here, it's only going to move those 6 objects and change the angle between them. I could certainly populate the array with additional objects by changing the value up here. We also have a direction function here. The polar array goes counterclockwise by default, and maybe you want to change that to go clockwise. So, whoops, there we go. So, oh, I guess they did change the direction on me. It used to go counterclockwise. I may be thinking of the old array command. Actually, I am thinking of that. So nowadays, clockwise, there we go. So that is a polar array, and you'll notice that we have this red chair here. This is a fancier, larger chair. It's for the CEO or the team leader or whatever. Okay, so I want to replace this chair with that one. That I can do. I'm going to go here to select the array, and I'm going to say, hey, let's replace an item. and it prompts me to select the replacement object first. So this chair. I tell it I'm done selecting that, and it says either specify a key point or a centroid. Key point is basically a base point on the replacement object, or the centroid. So basically it'll just use the center of this chair to plop it on top of that one there. And that's what I'm going to accept, centroid. So I'll just enter. And then it says to select either the object I want to replace or the source object. If I select source object, it replaces all the chairs. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that. And maybe I did want to replace all the chairs instead. I can go ahead and enter, and then I can say, let's go ahead and reset. And then I could go and replace the source object. But I'm just going to go ahead and replace that. Okay, oops. I had another Voker awkward moment. These webinars wouldn't be the same without them, would they? So gives me a chance to do this over again for you here. I'm going to select the object. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm good. I want to select the centroid, enter, and then I want to replace that, enter, and then exit. So there we go. That allowed me to replace that. The last array here is going to be a path array, and basically using a spline, I'm going to go ahead and select the object that I wish to array, then the path. Oops, there we go. And the options here are that it basically, by default, will fill the length of the path by having, I forget what the exact, well, in this case, 13 items, but I forget exactly what the why that is, whatever the default is for the length. The point is that you can change this. You can either type in how many items you want, but you can also go method, and that gives you the option of dividing or measuring. So I want to have an object every X amount of feet, then I would use measure. I want a total of 12 objects, okay, or let's go with 6. All right, so divide. I want this divided into 6. Oops. Yeah, canceled out of that one. All right, I'm going to waste a lot of time, so I'm moving on here in a moment. But you have the option to either divide or measure that array. Yeah, I think that's it for the array. Sorry about the goof there, but if I go back and do that again, we're going to run out of time. So let's take some questions on that. A couple of minutes.
So we had a question, if you copy a dynamic block into an array, does it make all the blocks act like the base block, or can each one be altered individually?
Yeah, that's I actually had a support request on that the other day, and you would have to, whatever let's say if you're using a visibility state, for example, whatever the current visibility state is, that is the one that's going to be copied in your array. Then the only way to modify that would be to insert another dynamic block with a different visibility state. You know, it could be the same block, insert it in your drawing with another visibility state, and then replace one of the objects in the array with that current visibility state. So if you are using dynamic blocks, you could probably use in my work, I would probably use the dynamic array to create the associative array to create the array initially, but I'd probably make it non-associative so that I could have the functionality of the dynamic blocks.
Okay, great. And then just one more actually, which is there a way to make a triangular spacing array? And this is one of those ones where we put you on the spot. We love these questions.
Yeah, I think the short answer is no.
Yeah, offhand, I cannot think of one at all. No. That's a good wish list item. So that's my easy cop-out.
That's fine. So for Linda, if you in the follow-up email, you should get a way to log that, so you can log that as a wish list item.
Yeah. Also, here's send feedback to the product team.
Yes, right inside the product.
Yep. And this does go to that team, so it's a great place to feature requests, enhancements, complaints, praise about the product, praise. Okay. All right. I'm moving on now. Sorry.
Sure.
We're going to talk about the offset command, another way of copying objects. And many of you have probably used the offset command, but again, a lot of people really don't pay that much attention to the options. So what I have here is a polyline, a P-line object. We're going to pretend this is a building outline and that I want to create some additional, I want to segment this into rooms. Okay, I'm only going to do one room, but you'll get the idea. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the offset command. OF would be the shortcut, or offset, or you can go to this submarine-looking icon, or hot dog with a pimple on it, whatever you want to. And that is the offset command. Now it has specify a distance or a through point. Okay, that's the first thing you see by the cursor there. A through point is basically picking 2 points. You could also, you have some other options here. One is erase, which it could come in handy, but the other one is layer, and we'll talk about layer in a few minutes. Right now, I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do is create an exterior wall, and we'll just make it 10 inches. And I'll type that in, and it prompts me to either exit or undo on the command prompt, but here it says to select the object to offset. So I'm going to pick this, and just recently, last few releases, they've added this preview of the offset, okay? And let me just make sure my layer is, yeah. All right, so they've added this preview, and I could also change the offset distance on the fly now. I used to not be able to do that in the past. That's what I want right there on the screen, so I'm just going to pick, and it's placed the offset, made the copy, all right? And by default, actually, let me undo that. Voker today is just full of awkward moments. There's a layer option here, and I'm going to change it to source. Okay, this is actually what you would have as a default. So enter, pick, and there it is on the same layer. And we're finally on the right page. I've created this wall now, and what I'm going to do is just select it, and I could type explode, X for explode, or select explode, and I've exploded it because I want to use the offset command to finish the interior wall. So what I'm going to do is now repeat the offset command, and this time I do want to change the layer option from the default, which is what I had to change a moment ago, to have it use the current layer, because the current layer is for the interior wall. These objects are on E-wall or exterior walls. So I'm changing it to current layer, And then I don't know the distance, but I want a wall. And obviously I could draw a wall line here, but I want this line here. I just want to use existing objects. So I'm going to say, let's go ahead and use that distance to offset this line. And it gives me a preview. I could change the value as well. I'm just going to pick here, and it places that wall there. I'll go ahead and use the offset command again. However, I don't want to offset this 30 feet. So this time I'm just going to type 5 for 5 inches and pick. Yeah, pick. There we go. Having done that, and I keep doing that, I now want to offset this wall here, obviously not 30 feet, so again I'm going to override it and go 10 feet. And pick. Again, I'm going to do this. Whoops, I actually picked twice, didn't I? I'm going to go ahead and offset this one 3 feet. Go ahead and get rid of this guy. And now I'm going to go ahead and use the trim command. Yeah, I did one too many lines over here as well. All right. Now I'm going to use the trim command. Select all this. Go ahead and create an opening there. Trim that off. Trim this off. And now I've got an interior wall. So that is the offset command. It's a great way to copy stuff and reuse existing line work, and it has some added functionality which we didn't have in the past. Okay, I've got 2 more commands. I'm going to do these before we take any more questions. The first one here is I want a label for this. I want to have this as building A. So I've got some existing text here in the drawing. What I'm going to do is pick with my left mouse button, and then I'm going to go ahead and just press and hold down with my right mouse button. And that allows me to copy this here. Had I just picked and dragged with my left mouse button, it would have moved it. I wanted that option to copy. So I've got that there. And that was it for that command. It comes in handy. Now, what I want to do is have a second building to the right of this. And it's going to be identical to this one. So let's pretend I've finished the entire floor plan here. And now I want to have a mirror image of that building. We have a command called mirror. This is a pretty straightforward command. It prompts you to select the objects that you want to make a copy of. I'm going to pick. I'm done selecting objects. And then it says specify first point of mirror line. Basically it's saying, hey, where's the base point? Well, I want a 16-foot gap between this building and the new one. So I am going to just reference, I'm not picking on this, I'm just referencing it, hovering over it. And I'm going to go ahead and type 8 foot, enter. And it uses that as a base point. Now pointing either straight down or straight up. So either polar tracking or ortho would work best. I use polar. I'm going to pick the second point. It disappears and prompts me, hey, do you want to erase that source object? I don't. There may be cases where you do, but I don't. So I'm going to accept the default and select enter, and voila, it's done. But what's wrong with the picture? Actually, nothing. We used a command called mirror, okay? But notice that the text has also been mirrored. All right. So a couple things about that. This is a system variable saved within a drawing called mirror text. So I've typed that in at the command prompt. Whoops. And you'll notice right now it's set to a value of 1. I'm going to hit F1 for help. The initial value for this is actually 0. And what it does, it retains the text direction. Well, obviously mine mirrored it, and mine is set to 1. You're going to get, AutoCAD's been around since 1982, and you're going to get legacy drawings. Because this variable is saved in the drawing, you may use the mirror command one day, and the text may be mirrored as well. This is why, because of this value. Not any real quick way to mirror that back without using the mirror command, all right? But type in mirror text, set it to 0, and in this case what I'll do is do just that. I've typed in 0, and you know, I could probably just mirror that text without setting that variable. I'm going to, get rid of this. And I'll use the mirror command again. Done selecting objects. Reference my base point, 8 foot. Point straight up. Hit enter to accept the mirror. Whoops, I thought I said that. How many awkward moments today, Sean?
52 and counting, I think.
Yeah, well, there you go. Thanks, Dave. 0, good grief. Yes,
like I've said before, I think it's good. It shows that we're just users like everybody else.
Oh, I'm just happy I'm talking to my computer. I'll blame it on myself. I blame myself. All right, 8 foot. Good grief. Oh, thank goodness we made it through that. There we go, guys. That's it. That is it. Hey, actually, I'm going to point out one command that may come in handy sometimes. There's a copy objects to new layer function, kind of tucked away. I thought about adding it. I didn't, so I'm showing it. I'm not going to go through it, but basically it'll copy your objects to a different layer. So note that that's there. It's pretty cool. Any questions?
Nothing currently. There's a few suggestions for future webinars, but we're going to ask that you put those into the suggestion link that you'll get at the end of the webinar.
But having said that, we do take those into account. So
yes.
we do appreciate that, and we do. So, for example, the array command, that was brought up like 3 or 4 webinars ago, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we'll do a webinar. Had to wait till the scheduled ones were done with, and decided to do one on copying objects and duplicating objects. So.
Yeah, Volker, one other thing that I don't think you covered, unless I was daydreaming, is just Control-C, Control-V for copy and paste.
Yeah, I did not copy that. And, yeah, that's Windows functionality. It works really well if you aren't familiar with that. Another way, so you have that from the command line, but you could also select your objects, right mouse click, and basically what that Control-V and C does, it uses the Windows clipboard to copy your objects. So not only can I copy this stuff, and I'll do copy with a base point, and I'll select the center point, okay? Create a new drawing, and I could then either paste it as a block. It will create an anonymous block. Okay, so unnamed. You would want to use the rename command afterwards to give it a unique name. I can also just paste it to the original coordinates. I'm going to use paste right now. Pick, and there it is. Had to zoom out a bit. There we go. Because it's a real life table and chair. So So that's a copy and paste in a new drawing, but I could also paste this into, say, a Word document because it is using the Windows clipboard. Go ahead.
The one thing I would just mention about that is if you are copying and pasting from one drawing to another, make sure that the drawing that you're copying from doesn't have any kind of corruption, run audit or recover on it, so that you're not propagating corruption from one drawing to another.
And I am really glad you brought that up. What I was going to say next is that I do tend to stay away from using the copy and paste from one drawing to another because you're bringing in a lot of cases, depending on how you select stuff, you're going to bring in stuff that you don't want in your new drawing. I personally feel that I have the W block command, which I can use to export objects, and then use the insert command to bring them in, or I can reference the file in a new drawing and then just use ref edit to bring in certain parts of it. So, I mean, every user, do your thing. Use copy and paste, but as Dave said, it's a good idea to make sure that you do drawing maintenance on your host drawing, your current drawing that you want to bring that stuff into. You should do that anyway. Keep your drawings maintained by doing an audit every once in a while or purging. But the less errors you have in a drawing, the less problems you're going to run into with the paste. And that's not to say you're going to have problems using the paste function, but we have seen issues in the past. It's still good functionality, and it's quick functionality. So I rambled too long, didn't I?
I tuned you out, sorry.
Thanks for being honest. All right.
No, I think it was all good points, all good points.
Yeah, you actually have that up here as well, so. I was talking about this with paste as block. Let me just do that real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that right off of the Windows clipboard. It's now treated as a block. And if we go into the rename command, which we need to type in, okay, and go to blocks, you'll see we have chair 1, chair 7. Okay, that's what these are. This was just a circle, and then chair 7 and chair 1. But these are nested within this anonymous block right here. So maybe I'll just call that table set, something like that, and click OK. So now, using the property palette, you can see it now has a name. All right. If you're going to work with blocks, I mean, whether they're created from scratch or using the clipboard, try and be descriptive, right? You want to know what you're inserting or what to insert later. While we have another minute or so.
Yeah, there's a few more questions too, so I don't know if we can squeeze those in before we end, if that's okay.
Yeah, I was going to ad-lib, so.
Yeah, let me see. So can you copy an entire layer to a new drawing?
With objects on it, I'm assuming.
I think you'd basically use quick select for something like that, wouldn't you?
I would agree with that. You may have to bring the layer name in using Design Center. But yeah, quick select, would allow me to select. In this case, I'll just leave it on multiple, but select everything on layer, chairs, and click OK. And obviously that's a block here. Oh yeah, it's all on layer 0 right now. Well, no, that's... Hate it when stuff doesn't work right. Oh, maybe because it's a dynamic array. Yeah.
Yeah, the chair could be built on layer chairs as opposed to being placed on layer chairs.
Well, that's it. That's exactly it because of what it was built on. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, I'll tell you what, I hope people, I know they do, but there's not very many sessions where folks put themselves out there to live questions. So some of these things, they may not always go exactly, but we're happy to be taking these live questions and hopefully getting you guys answers right on the spot. So, Volker, is there a copy, drag, rotate command?
Copy, drag, rotate? No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, there's not. In fact, I can't think of any commands really that have a drag functionality in. But, like I said, you could right mouse click and drag, copy, and move. But yeah, there's no rotate in there.
Yep.
You could select the grip, go into a rotate and copy mode. Let's do it. Rotate. And if you wanted it somewhere else, let's see, we'd probably have to, if that'll work, yep, have to move it. So, yeah, you just move, overwrote the copy. So you could do copy and, using grips, in this case it was copy and then rotate.
And let's see, do you have to have the same unit set in each drawing in order to drop it to the same coordinates?
Yeah, that's a good question there, huh?
I would say that you would have to, because if you have an imperial drawing and a metric drawing and you just do copy and paste like that, it's not going to come in where you want it to.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, and I agree with you, Dave. So here's the thing is that you're using the Windows clipboard. So it doesn't really understand it's an AutoCAD object. So it will determine everything, based on whatever Windows does. Using AutoCAD block insert, this would be better because let's say the block is an architectural block and you're inserting it into a metric drawing, it would understand the differences. Obviously, you'd have to know the coordinates where you want to place it, but at least it would rescale it and everything. With different units, it's something to try out, but I think you're gonna see problems using that paste option.
So I think we have time for one more before we do our final slides. And for anybody whose questions we won't get to, please post those in the follow-up link that will be sent out, and we'll do our best to answer them there. But some folks have version 2013, and the question was they apparently don't have some of the same commands you use today. I tried to look at it quickly, but I couldn't see any difference, Volker. I'm just wondering, I know there's some differences, but in 2015 from 2013, will some of these tools not be there in prior releases?
So I thought 2013 had all the commands that offset, and copy have. I tried to pull
it up quick and look at it, but I just couldn't see anything on the fly that looked real different.
Well, one of the things that won't be there, I believe, is, so if we do array, no, that's not what I want. Let's do copy. So I'm in the copy command. So we have this option to click on here. That's not going to be available in 13. I think that was introduced in 2014, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the multiple option was already there in 2013 for the copy command. Yeah, I'm sorry, I just can't recall.
That's right.
Yeah, we're moving, already pretty close to the next release, and things change. The one thing, some of these questions, we do try to get back to you if you've posted in the forum, but I really love getting some of the questions that keep me wondering, because it makes me want to learn more and be able to answer that question the next time around. I'm pretty sure most of us in product support are that way. We we don't want to not know the answer, but sometimes we can't answer them right away. So we're like anybody else out there. We know a lot. You guys probably know a lot more about the stuff you're doing than we do, but we probably know a lot more about some things that you don't, you know? So it works both ways. Shoot, we need to call it quits, so I'm just going to let me just point out we have an additional resources in the PowerPoint. Next week is going to be the Content Explorer, similar to Design Center. And I'm going to let Sean run the final poll since we've run out of time.
Yeah, so I'll just put this up quick and thank you everybody for sticking with us till the end. So if you have a moment to just vote on this before you depart, it would be fantastic. So, and we're just almost at 100% that learned something new today, so that is great. So
very awesome. We appreciate that feedback. Glad we're able to show you something that you can make use of in your working environment, because we do know you're busy. So
so thank you everyone again, and we hope to see you next week.
Take care,
Have
everybody.
a great rest of your day. Bye now.